The following is a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Good morning and welcome to Your Life, Your Money here with Kelvin, the Money Guy. My name is Chris Preston and joined as always by the guy I just mentioned, Kelvin, the Money Guy. Don't forget, you can call him anytime at 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. And you can visit his website, askkelvin.ca, askkelvin.ca. And there's a really great tool there where you can book a quick meeting with Kelvin, and you schedule the time and you set up a call with Kelvin right there on the website. So if you've got some questions about your money life, about your finances, about anything that we're talking about here today, you've got a couple of different ways to reach Kelvin. One of them, that phone number, 416-457-7526. But the best way, go to his website, askkelvin.ca, and you schedule the appointment, you schedule the call, and then you can have a chat with Kelvin in real time. And that's askkelvin.ca. Kelvin, how you doing this week?
Hey, Chris. Good morning. Everything good?
Everything's great. Yeah, good times. Good times in the pandemic. It's still, it feels more and more just sort of normal.
Yeah.
We've got obviously different things happening that make us feel like we're able to do things more than we were able to if we are vaccinated. And that obviously creates problems for people who are not. And we're just sort of rolling through all of this and seeing how it goes. Election in the past now, which seemed to be the most dominant thing for a month. And now we're just moving forward.
Well, yeah, I hear you. It's good to see things are kind of getting back to normal. The Leafs are practicing again. They're already making excuses if they don't win. Normal things are happening again. So that's
perfect. Yeah, so nothing to see here.
Better.
Yeah.
It's funny. September is one of those months, where we're back to school.
Yeah.
Hockey starting, football starting, playoffs, and
baseball.
Yeah. So a lot of good things are happening. And it's funny when we talk about the stock markets. We started off in September, up, down. It's like whiplash. And historically, September is always a bad month in the stock markets. People think it's because people think it's October because we remember the October crash back in 1987. And it seems to stick in our head that October is one of the bad ones. But if you look back to this month, you see the markets are down maybe 2%. But overall, year to date, we're up 13.5%. So, this shows about not only your money, but your life. But the part of the money part is stay invested, look at your portfolio, just plan your life like everything else, and everything works out well, right?
And that's one of the things, obviously, one of the things that we keep telling people, if you stay in, and I think that what you always say is time in the market rather than timing the market is the best strategy. You could see a big drop one day, think that everything's poised for a crash, and you say, I got to get out of this thing. And then meantime, you're not there for the recovery because you've pulled everything out.
Yeah, it seems every week to week, Monday to Friday, it starts off bad, ends up good. We start the weekend again. And it's just one of those things. So you know what? Control things that you can control, and don't worry about the stuff that you can't control. And that leads, to the topic that we wanted to talk to today is, financial planning tips for the sandwich generation.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing that people find themselves in, to be in the middle of this sandwich, to find themselves in the middle of the sandwich generation. Yeah, we're not talking pastrami on rye with mustard. We're talking about being in that sandwich generation. And Kelvin, there's a lot of people who find themselves in sort of a period of time where they've got important financial decisions to make, not only for themselves, but for their parents and their children. And it's unique that so many people are in this position right now.
Well, in fact, they say 1 in 4 Canadians currently find themselves in that position. And what made it worse was the COVID. Just complicated matters even more. I mean, In the best days, life could be hectic and overwhelming. Our jobs, daily, day-to-day aside, our kids, all kinds of things that we do. So it's not surprising that people aged 45 to 54 are struggling the most with this, right? 36% of Canadians are in the sandwich generation, looking, like you said, looking after their parents, kids, and themselves. And sometimes we get lost in this and we forget about ourselves sometimes.
Yeah,
So
and I think that a lot of people, obviously, like you said, COVID made it worse. You've got kids who maybe would have been in a position where they'd be earning, but a lot of them probably lost their positions or had them clawed back because they're working in more precarious fields through the
right.
pandemic. So the lockdowns really affected them. Then you've got elderly parents. Maybe they're in a home, maybe they're not. Maybe you've pulled them out of a home to bring them into your own home to make sure that they've got care, or you brought them into your home because you don't want to send someone in there.
Right.
Better to keep them part of your bubble and keep them safe. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of, all of a sudden, bigger households,
I know.
and even if they're not under the same roof, there's still that care that you're taking of the elderly parents, even if they're not, even if they're self-sufficient, they're doing
Right.
fine, but you've got to think about them with every decision that you make.
I mean, it could be overwhelming, to manage all these like two households and whatever
Mm-hmm.
you have to do. So a lot of financial, emotional pressures are on you. But the good news is, with a little financial planning, you can make the transition into your new phase of your life a little easier and a lot less painful without putting your own retirement plans at risk. And there's a few things, like everything else, few rules to follow. Some you will follow to a T, some you won't. But generally, if you kind of follow 80% of these rules, you'll be fine. So, like I say, 30%, 36% of Canadians find themselves in this sandwich generation. But many times we manage through things and we get emotional about a lot of things. But like I say, as long as we have a sound plan, we'll weather the storm and we'll be good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously, that's why we do these shows so that we can present these rules, these tips for people who are navigating these issues. And I think, Kelvin, you do a great job of identifying issues that are really important to our listeners. So if you're out there and you're listening to us right now, you know, stay tuned this hour, because there's a lot of really important information that maybe you're in this position right now, you find yourself in the sandwich, or maybe you're not quite there yet and you're
Mhm.
going to be there soon and you haven't really given it very much thought. Everyone is going to be in a position where, if even someone my age, in my mid 30s,
Right.
right now I don't have to take care of my parents, they're still working, but down the road, these are things that you're going to want to keep in mind.
And many times these topics that we talk about every Sunday is really derived from clients. Like, I see what struggles they go through. Like, they come and see me after the show, um, and I see the struggles that they go through and some of the things that I try and help them out with. And then I keep thinking to myself, there has to be other people out there that have the same type of issues, maybe thinking, they to talk to a financial advisor is going to cost them a lot of money and so on. And that's not the case. And I think that's where a financial advisor really comes in handy. There's many of us out there, so you don't have to you don't have to deal with me, but reach out to your advisor and let them help you, go through some of these things in order to so that you don't face all these pressure and financial stuff on your own, that they have somebody to talk it out to, right? So one of the things I found is, you know, organize and update your financial records, right? The first things first, try not to worry about things, like I said, that you can't control. Just have a good sound plan for yourself. Most likely you're managing a huge list of things to do, all kinds of stuff, that's overwhelming. So make a list of financial priorities that will also help you prepare in case there's an emergency or something urgent that comes up. At least you have the funds there. Remember the analogy that they say, I mean, we haven't been in an airplane for 2 years, but remember when they used to do all that stuff and tell you when the oxygen mask falls? what should you do?
You got to put
Well,
on yours before you help someone with theirs.
and that's why planning is very crucial. So, because you have your hands full every day with daily routine, it's a good idea to create efficiencies that will give you a little bit of breathing room as things go on. So have a little plan for yourself, ask yourself certain questions. Like, am I emergency? Do I have enough emergency money or things to last me for 6 months if a crisis arises? Because it seems like 3 to 6 months seems to be the lack in what we don't have. So look at those things. So be prepared for the unexpected, especially with parents, and kids actually. 'Cause you never know what happens, right?
Young people
So,
in cars can always be an issue. So so a plan for
yeah.
that might be good.
And retirement. I mean, don't give up your own. Don't let the burdens derail your savings for retirement. Continue to make contributions as you planned. Even take some time and run basic retirement calculations. And if you don't have time for all of those things, like I say, talk to your advisor, because that's what we're there for, to help you get ready for things that may not happen, but things that may happen in the future. And then we kind of get you into look at your income and cash flow. Do you have a handle on your monthly income and general expenses? Sometimes it really surprises me when people come to see me and I tell them, tell me, where do you spend your money? And many people don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
Honestly, I could tell you, I'm probably one of those people who I can pinpoint it. Well, I spend money on food. I spend
Mhm.
money on those bills that come in. Obviously, I'm buying toilet paper. I don't know what I'm not sure where it all goes. Somewhere with that toilet paper, I think.
And your income is your lifestyle is actually dictated by your income. The
Hmm.
more we make, the more we spend. I have clients, I gotta tell you, that make not a lot of money, but they live a great life and they have money in the bank. And I have also clients that make a ton of money, but have no money.
Uh-huh.
When I see all these things, it gets me to thinking, set aside a little bit of your money, 5%, 10%, whatever it may be, and move on and live your life and live within your means. Don't live on your wants, live within your means, and you'll be fine. Another thing that I find, what we have to, in the sandwich generation, prepare for is future expenses. So what kind of expenses do you have on the horizon? Do you have kids going to university, college? Are you going to renovate your house? If a parent ought to move in or something. And the cost of living increases. And we never had to put up with this till now. Inflation, is up about 2.5, maybe 3%. I think they said last time.
Hmm.
So, look at the price of gas
Yeah.
and food, and everything has gone up. So it seems like we're just stuck in this, everything going up with our salaries, right?
Exactly. And when we come back, we'll continue talking about some of these tips for the sandwich generation. You find yourself in that position, maybe you could see it coming up on the horizon. There's a sandwich in your future, and you may be in the middle of it. That's all coming up here on Your Life, Your Money with Kelvin, the Money Guy. Don't forget, you can book an appointment to chat with Kelvin at askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. More on the sandwich generation on Your Life, Your Money here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
And welcome back to Your Life, Your Money here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. I am Chris Preston, joined as always by Kelvin, the Money Guy. Don't forget, you can visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And on that website, you can book an appointment with Kelvin. Askkelvin.ca is the website. He is one of the top financial advisors in the country. So you can talk to your guy, you can talk to another guy, or you could talk to some lady, or you could talk to one of the top financial advisors in the country. Always worth getting a second opinion. Or if you've been going it alone, Kelvin's a great guy to talk to. Listen to him. Listen to the rest of the show here and tell me he's not a great guy to talk to. Askkelvin.ca is the website. That's askkelvin.ca. And Kelvin, we've been talking about the sandwich generation. It's a position that a lot of our listeners find themselves in right now. And if you're out there and you find yourself in this position, here are some great points that we're going to be giving you through the hour to talk about things that maybe you haven't thought of, maybe you're overwhelmed, and this is always a great place to start. I find whenever I'm overwhelmed with anything, the best place to start is the start. So one of the way that we started off the show was we were talking about the first point and the first tip that Kelvin gave to people who are preparing to be in the sandwich generation or preparing to be in a sandwich position with their kids that they're taking care of, and also their parents that they have to take care of as well. That first point was organize and update your financial records. And it's a huge deal. A lot of people kind of have an idea of what their finances are, but just to have them organized and to put pen to paper, see what you actually have, makes a lot of sense and makes things a lot more easier to manage. Maybe you find, I don't have as much as I had. Maybe you find you had more than you thought. Either way, the knowledge will empower you to move forward to the next step.
Yeah, and like I say, one of the things was future expenses, tuition, things that you don't see. So the bottom line, it's important to continue saving, and if possible, resist the urge to get rid of your own retirement nest egg, support others. One of the things I got to tell you is that over the last 6 months, what I found is clients been calling me because they've been talking to their mom and dad about, selling their house. Should we sell our house? What should we do? Will I have enough income? Things like that. So, house prices have gone crazy, and as you know, and some people are thinking, geez, do we cash out? Do we sell? And it's a really emotional decision to make. And I think, like I said, before you do anything, get a retirement calculator, or figure out the pros and cons, like write down on a blank piece of paper, if I sell, what happens? If I don't sell, what happens? And move on from there. Don't just make an emotional decision, man, I got to sell my mom and dad's house, or maybe I'll rent it out. A lot of things are going through people's minds right now. And I think it's very important they find an outsider to discuss those things with, to give you, like an unbiased opinion on what you should do, because it's a big changing. It's another milestone in your life, selling your house or your parents' house or whatever. There's a lot of things attached to it.
Well, it's a big thing, right? Obviously, there's a lot of emotion tied up in that. And if you've ever helped your parent move, you know what it's like, or helped a grandparent move. There's, decades worth of stuff and memories and things there that, you've got to dig through, you've got to catalog, you've got to decide, it's not just the house, it's the stuff. It's so much that you've got to think about. And all of that has, varying values. Some of it has financial value, some of it has not. Some of it has emotional value, and some of it has emotional value you'd rather not dig up. So that's all stuff that probably gets in the way when you're trying to make these decisions.
And that leads me to the second step. You really need to understand your parents' financials. You know how our parents are secretive, right? They don't tell us what they have. They don't tell us anything.
Yeah.
I have a buddy of mine whose parents passed away, man, maybe, 6 years ago now. And he was telling me, Kelvin, when I was cleaning up the house, man, I found money in the unbelievable places, like thousands of dollars
under the mattress, sewed into the curtains, that kind of thing. People do strange things.
Yeah, and it's really funny, and we never have those conversations with our parents because it's uncomfortable, right? So it's a lesson that we need to learn about. Do our parents have financial hardships? Because sometimes they won't tell us.
Right. Yeah, well, they were the parents. They're supposed to be in charge, and if they don't want to let their kids know that they've got a chip in the armor or some weak spot where they can't take care of themselves.
Right. So I think you have to look after your financial problems first, and then have that conversation with your parents about, and it's going to be a challenge to have that conversation. They're not going to tell you things because, like you said, they're the parent, you're the kid. And no matter how old you get to, your parents will always be your parents. So you need to understand I think you need to understand where they are financially. And I think we need to understand, if they get into a senior's home or we have to redo our house to accommodate them, what do we have? What do we got to do, So it goes out saying that seniors can have some tricky financial situations. So make sure you have a good handle on things to avoid any surprises that may happen. So one thing is income.
Mm-hmm.
Find out exactly how much money they have coming in every month from their pensions, their CPP, their old age work, whatever they have, all their sources of income, as well as their retirement savings. Do they have RSPs? What if my mom and dad passes away? What are the tax liabilities for me as a beneficiary or a kid, right? What happens to me? Look at their monthly expenses, make a list of all their expenses, and one big one is healthcare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at their bill payments, cost of living, insurance, medication. So you really need to take a toll of all those things. And it's not stuff that's scary or overwhelming. You just need to make a list of these things that your parents have. And many times, our parents they went through a whole bunch of things in their lives, and they've really had a good way of writing things down
Yeah.
of what they have, and they're very good at that. So maybe it's just a continuance of that for us as kids and move on.
And it depends on the generation, but I think a lot of people will find that their parents are really good at record keeping because you had to keep your own records, right? It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't something that the bank was doing for you or anything.
Yeah.
My wife used to work as a bank teller. The seniors were coming in to get their bank books updated. No one in my generation has even touched a bank book, right? Like
No.
the app tells me where my bills are, got paid. The app tells me when I put the money into the bank. That's all I've got is the bank telling it to me. I haven't taken the time to actually fill out my own documents and document that history. Now, some people might also find that their parents were creative with their
Mhm.
accounting as well, but it's better to know these things than to be in the dark on it.
Yeah, it's funny, the other day I had to write a check. I've never written a check out in, man, I don't know how long, because my wife does it all, right? So, but
Yeah.
I had to write a check, and I'm thinking, oh my God, you don't know what to put on there, and like who you make it out to. It's really weird. And we grew up with the generation of writing checks, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny, if you don't do it for quite a while, it's like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. So it's all these things that, common sense and everyday things that's really going to lead us into where we want to get to, and really take care of our parents and things like that, right? So there's, like I say, the third thing I found is, encourage adult children to contribute, which is a real tough one, because I can tell you with my kids, right, what happens. And so it's for this one, it's hard for me to talk about in the sense which, sometimes you spoil your kids.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's
But
it,
it's
right?
always
Yeah.
like,
How many
yeah,
kids go from having allowance to getting a job, but then the money never comes back in, right?
right.
That's fun money when they end up getting that paper route or that part-time job at the mall or whatever it happens to be, and it's not necessarily money that's going to contribute to the household.
Yeah, I remember growing up, I had a job in a restaurant cleaning tables, right? So I'd
Mm,
get paid every 2 weeks, whatever. And then I would sign the back of the check and leave it in the kitchen for my dad,
wow.
because that's how we grew up, like that, right? And then they would give us money if we needed for anything. But
Hmm.
it's funny, when I was doing this research about this, I got back thinking about me, about when people of my age group grew up. So it's really important, I think, for us to maybe get back to something like that, and help and let our adult kids maybe help contribute to things, towards the household. And if they're planning to go to college or university, you could encourage them to apply for scholarships, loans, grants. There's a whole bunch of things out there that the government gives us that we don't know. And I think because of this pandemic, there might be more money given out to kids to go to school or do whatever they need to do. So I think we need to research a lot of those things and find out, what's out there for me. What can I get for my kids to help them better their future?
We were talking about how our parents might try and shelter us from financial truths and stuff like that. But as parents, you wind up trying to protect your children and trying to do as much for them as possible. So you pay their phone bill, you pay their car insurance and these things like this. When you've got three generations under the same roof, or three generations finances being managed by that person in the middle of the sandwich,
Right.
you find yourself in a position where you know what, if the kid is earning, then maybe they need to contribute a little bit. I know my mom said to me, if you want all these channels on the TV, which puts us in times now, kids don't even want a TV, they don't watch the
Right.
TV. But
Yeah.
if you want all these channels, it was, you've got to pay the cable bill. You want to have the fast internet, you've got to pay the internet bill. And that's what, so on top of car insurance, cell phone, these are things that are attributable to the child, that you can say, listen, this is a household expense. If you're the one using it, you can take it off of my shoulders a little bit here and contribute to the household. And I felt good about it. Maybe
Right.
I felt too good about it. Like I felt like, look at me, I'm the hero. I must be saving the day. I paid $50.
Right. Well, and that's why it's a good idea to get them involved in your own financial planning, so that they will, understand the situation, and maybe after the break we'll maybe get in a little bit about that. You're right.
Terrific. Awesome. That's continuing here as we talk about the sandwich generation, not the grilled cheese sandwich. Grilled cheese sandwich. Askkelvin.ca is the website where you can book an appointment to talk to Kelvin and find out a lot more. That's askkelvin.ca. Stay tuned to Your Life, Your Money right here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Welcome back to Your Life, Your Money right here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. It's that show where we talk about your life and your money. It's the name of the show. askkelvin.ca is the website. That's askkelvin.ca. You can book yourself an appointment to chat with Kelvin, the money guy, the guy that you're listening to right now as we talk about the sandwich generation. Not the Cuban sandwich. No, that sandwich is a little red, for my liking at least. But we're talking about the sandwich generation, where you find yourself taking care of your elderly parents and your younger children, and how you're supposed to deal with that, the best tips, the best ways, the things that you need to check off of your boxes to make sure that you are in the right position to, thrive and take care of your elderly parents, make sure that they've got the best retirement possible, and take care of your children to make sure that they've got the best start possible. We talked about making sure that you had sort of your own ducks in a row. We talked about understanding your parents' finances, and we talked about getting and encouraging your children, adult children, to contribute to the household in some way, just to get them involved, to help out when there's a lot of heavy lifting involved.
Well, I find if you do that, what happens is you'll make them better prepared for their own financial trajectory, and it'll help them set some boundaries for themselves. Most have no boundaries, right? When it comes to money, I'll buy this, I'll buy that, right?
Yeah.
So what you want to do is have them set certain examples for like certain things that's going to happen. Like, I want to buy a car. I'm going to go to college or university, down payment for a home, a wedding. So some things may not be realistic for them, although they think it is, right? So if they understand their limitations, they'll have a more realistic view of their own future, and that'll actually project them into the future, so that when they're their parents' age, or when they're, if you're 25 or 30 today or whatever, when you're 60 years old, you'll be much prepared and better living, maybe financially better. I don't know. So the whole gist of these shows, Chris, when you and I do, it's always about planning. I'm not planning for your future, like for 30 years from now, planning for maybe 3 to 5 years from now, maybe a year from now. So like I say, if you're aged between 45 to 55, you're that sandwich generation where you're caught in between parents, kids, and you, which is not a bad thing if you manage it properly, right? So one thing is, maybe share financial responsibilities. Life, can seem very overwhelming and chaotic at first, you know that, right? So turning the tables and getting a hold of things might just make things easier than you think. When we're in a problem, financial or emotional or whatever, everything seems to be cluttered, right? And we can't really see outside the box. And that's where a financial advisor really comes into play, to help you juggle all those things so that you could have a clear vision of where you want to be and with your money and everything else, right?
And that's, you bring up, sharing financial responsibilities, and it sort of plays into a little bit what we were talking about last segment too. I had a friend, Kelvin, who had his parents did okay. They had money, they had savings, but they
Mm,
made him pay for his university education. And when he graduated, his gift was they paid him back. So he had to,
right.
get it in his head. He had to work a part-time job on top of his studies, but his dad wanted to teach him that responsibility that goes along with, not just paying tuition, but
Mm,
taking care of it yourself, having that
right.
personal pride to say, well, I'm able to put myself through it, but then never telling them that there was a light at the end of the tunnel and there was a reward, and that
Mm,
reward was actually getting that money back. And that was all of a sudden a weight lifted off of his shoulders, because he was,
right.
how am I going to pay for all this? So I've got these loans. What am I going to do? I've got to get started. And then having that relief. That, so I think that a lot of parents, especially if you are more well off, you want to take care of everything for your kids. But there's a strategy there where
Mhm.
you can take care of them, but you can also make sure they're not spoiled.
Right. And one of the things, like when I share financial responsibility, explore the possibility of sharing, caregiving
Mm-hmm.
and financial planning responsibilities with your siblings or other members of the family, if possible. Set limitations. It's a tough thing to ask brothers and sisters to help out your mom and dad because sometimes there's always someone that's favored. I don't know what happens, but so try and set limits. It can help release some of the uncertainty about your financial role and encourage others to pitch in when needed. I have got clients of mine, and it's funny how I'm seeing a lot of commonalities now with things. And most of these clients' parents are in their 80s. And what I find is one or two of the siblings look after the mom and dad or whoever's left, right? And then many times when something may happen, when the last parents die, then all the other kids come looking for money.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, they didn't do anything when the parents was alive. So it's lots of common things, and it's a really tough conversation to have, with your brothers and sisters and so on. And I think, like I always say, financial planning, like financial planners, go beyond the stock markets going up and down. Like I said at the beginning of the show, the markets in September, went up and down. It did like a -2%. Overall, we're up 13%. So the markets, we don't really need to have those big conversations anymore. I think what we need as financial advisors is to have these type of conversations with our clients about their parents and themselves and things like that. So yeah, look at sharing financial responsibilities with siblings, although it's a tough thing to ask. Maybe, tough, the big challenges are always tough things to do. The easy things are easy, right?
Yeah,
So
well, that's it. And you do those hard things for a reason. They're worth doing, but they're challenging. So whether you're talking about finances, which is a hard conversation to have with your parents, imagine having it now with your brothers and sisters and trying to bring them into the fold, and you're carrying the burden of your parents. But meanwhile, your mooch brother or sister is just sort of enjoying and popping in and out, and expects to have a payout at the end of the whole
Mhm.
experience. But meanwhile, there's obviously people are going to be in different financial situations,
Right.
and that can be understood.
Mhm.
Kelvin, do you have people coming to you with questions like that, like how am I supposed to ask my brother for more money to help
E-
pay for the elderly parent who's living in my house?
Actually, yeah, I get that. I would say not all the time, but enough, frequent
Mm,
enough to address things like that. And remember, I got my dad's 84. My mom passed away like 15 years ago. And I got my brother that lives in Montreal and there's my sisters that live here. And we all kind of take turns in what we kind of do, for my dad. Like my sister will buy his groceries and things like that. I'll kind of give him a call to check up and see what's happening. So I think each sibling needs, takes whatever they see fit to do. That's all I can tell you. Some are better off financially, some are not. Some are better off to drop by and say hi because they got time. So I think whatever you can do to make life easy for your mom and dad and for your kids, I would do without giving up you, right?
Yeah,
Kind of
and
thing.
find a way, I guess, to play to your strengths. Some people might be financial, some of it may be
Right.
for time
Yeah.
and caregiving. So that's always part of it. And we'll continue talking about being in the middle of that sandwich generation as we continue here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. Don't forget, you can book an appointment. That's you click on the schedule a call link on askkelvin.ca and you can set up a call right now to chat with Kelvin. So that's askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. Click on schedule a call and you can book an appointment to chat with Kelvin about your money life, about some of these situations where you find yourself in the middle of a sandwich in that sandwich generation. More of your life, your money, continuing here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
And welcome back to Your Life, Your Money right here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. askkelvin.ca is the website. That's askkelvin.ca. And you can schedule a call there to talk to Kelvin anytime. Just look at the times that he has available. You find the time that you're available. You click on that time. You make an appointment and you will have a chat with Kelvin. That's askkelvin.ca. Ask KELVIN.ca. He is the money guy, Kelvin, the money guy. That's what we call him, and that is what he is here to talk to you about here today. We've been talking about the sandwich generation, and as we wrap up the hour, Kelvin, I think that we've touched on some very important points, talking about sharing financial responsibilities, talking about encouraging adult children to contribute, talking about understanding your parents' financials, trying to sort of pull away the cobwebs and make sense of their ledgers and abacuses and other such things that they're using to keep track of their finances, and also organizing and updating your own financial records. But as we move into it, we've got one more point that you want to get to.
And I think, of all the points, they're all important, but I think this one is maybe a little bit more important. Get the estate planning in order. Do you have a will actually? Do your parents have one? How can you make sure that your kids are taken care of in case of the unforeseeable? These are all important questions to ask yourself and good reason to get your estate planning in order sooner than later, because you never know, right? Ensure that you have all your important documents, for both your parents and your own family. We tend to just keep everything all over the place, right? And then when something tragic happens, we go, oh my God, where's the will? Is there a trust? Is there any arrangement for advanced care? Where's the life insurance? Who's the power of attorney and the executor to do all these things for us? We have no idea. We don't do it, And that's why I say you work with, with a financial advisor who, will work with clients to ensure that the estate planning documents are up to date. All the pieces that work together with the goal of reducing the family stress when these things may happen in the future. I guess it's always planning ahead, looking, I think you don't want to look backwards. There's a reason why the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror, right?
That's right.
You don't want to always look backwards. You want to look forward. So I think, if you're concerned about your finances, make an appointment to speak with your financial advisor. If you don't have one, you can always call me. There's lots of them around, right? But speak to your advisor They can help you get to a place of confidence so that you'll feel better about your family's financial future, right? Not only will they offer you a second opinion on your current financial plan, but they will work with you to develop a strategy, a new strategy maybe to manage your finances as your goals may change, as things may change with your parents. Like I say, we're in this sandwich generation. So maybe some of the goals we had planned out maybe 10 years ago is not aligned now because we never thought, geez, my mom and dad is in their 80s. What am I going to do? So work with your financial advisor to help you put all these ducks in order, and you will be fine.
And that's a big thing, is always sort of that plan changing and adapting, and you've got to stay on top of that and make sure that you've got a little bit of wiggle room to do that. And having a financial advisor on your side helps you with that.
Right. And many of our parents, I would say, they own a home or maybe two or a cottage, and now they're going to be hit with this huge capital gains tax because prices have gone out of whack. Mm-hmm. How does the kids now deal with this? How do we pay that? So like I say, get in touch with your advisor and let them sit with them and plan out your money life, and you'll be fine.
Terrific. Thank you, Kelvin, for all of your help, helping us navigate what it's like to be in that sandwich position with our parents, with our kids, trying to take care of everybody and trying to make sure that we can still have our own retirement plan and our own life, because you still want to enjoy your life. You still want to thrive. You still want to be able to remember vacations? You still want to be able to do these things. Maybe go to a ball game or a hockey game. There's stuff out there that we can do again that we'd love to be able to do. And having a financial plan helps us not only take care of the things we need, but those things we want as well. And I think that that's a huge thing to remember. And remember, you can always book an appointment with Kelvin for a quick chat on the phone. Schedule a call is the link on his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And you get a complimentary 30-minute call with Kelvin by booking an appointment there today. That's askkelvin.ca. Kelvin, thanks again for another great show. Stay tuned to Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
The preceding was a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.